Whoa, what's going on? Welcome back to the Hustlers. Hey, we back with another episode of the Hustler Sports Fantasy Podcast. Well, y'all already know you sleep, you beat. I'm your host, T Will. Listen, week 15 was unpredictable. Blowouts, comebacks, some fantasy heartbreakers that straight up ended some people's season that they wasn't expecting. You know what I mean? They probably had a big lead going into Monday and lost. Hey, we got a packed show today. We focused on the top performers, the injury recap, the waiver wire scoop, our hustlers pickup, risk it or bench it, under the shell lock pick, our hustlers energy lock pick of the week, league shout outs, my fantasy league shout outs. Then we're going to end with a fantasy community debate, the questions that I've been seeing on the internet. Before we get into it, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hustle Sports Network and on X at Hustle Sports Net. Let's go and get into it. Top performers from week 15. You know what I mean? These are guys who went crazy. One of them who kind of surprised. We know he good, but he straight up carried this week. That first guy is Travis Etienne, running back from the Jaguars. The boy had 12 carries, 32 rush yards, 3 catches for 73 yards, and 3 receiving tutties. Going crazy. Went crazy, did his thing against the Jets. Etienne, we know he good, and, we just want to see the consistency. And, Sunday is he showed why he a top dog. So shout out to Etienne. Next up, my dog, Puka Nacua, wide receiver from the Rams. Boy had 27.9 fantasy points, 9 catches, 181 yards, 2 rushes, 8 yards. Hey, one thing, I drafted Puka this year. He was my first pick. One thing I love about Puka is he one of them ones, his floor is crazy high. He have big numbers and don't have any touchdowns. Like case in point, Sunday, 27.9 points with no tutties. Boy had 9 catches, 181 yards. That's insane. That is insane. So anytime you got somebody who could do that without scoring, if they score, that's a backbreaker right there. But hey, Puka Nacua, hey, he been a dog since he been in. So it's no surprise he was the top receiver this week. Next up, Trevor Lawrence. We've been waiting on this guy. And, earlier in the season, on a couple of episodes before, I said I ain't trust Trevor Lawrence. But he shut me up with his play Sunday. Boy had 44.3 fantasy points, 330 yards, 5 touchdowns, passing touchdowns. Then he had 51 rush yards and then a rushing touchdown. So he just was going crazy Sunday. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I know earlier in the year I was saying I ain't trust Trevor Lawrence. I think now we at the point of the season. Jacksonville legit. They legit. You could trust Trevor Lawrence in fantasy. We got 2 weeks left. He could prepare you to a dub. That's for sure. That is for sure. So don't sleep on him. Next up, Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts Sr., tight end for the Falcons. The boy had 45.6 fantasy points, had 11 catches, 166 and 3 tutties. And he did that Thursday. That seemed like forever ago. But he just went insane, went nuclear. And he was the top scoring tight end. Hey, I know I'm not keeping the one person per position, but I had to shout Trey McBride out. Now, I drafted Trey McBride 2 seasons ago, a 2024 season. He helped me get to the playoffs. So, hey, he always favorable to me. That's one of my dogs. Boy had 37.4 fantasy points, 12 catches, 134 yards, 2 tutties. Going crazy. He a staple, though. He always do that. And then the top scoring defense was the Chicago Bears. They had 18 fantasy points. They only allowed 3 points. They got 3 picks and 5 sacks. So, yeah, the top performers went crazy this week. And it's a great time to go crazy because it's playoff season. We trying to, do or die. Do or die. Win or go home. Another top performer, surprise usage spike. Now, he was my surprise usage spike last week. So I'm surprised that he's able to keep it going 2 weeks in a row, given his past, given his whole season. You know what I mean? He's been trending up with the last 6 weeks, though. But he had 11 rushes, 71 yards, and a tutty. And that's Blake Corum, running back for the Rams. His snap share jumped to 46%. And that's actually what the most surprising thing I saw. He only played 30% of the snaps in week 14, but in week 15, jumped up to 46% of the snaps. And McVay has been very transparent about trying to preserve Kyren Williams for their playoff run. So while they trying to preserve Kyren Williams for their playoff run, Maybe you can scoop Blake Coral for your playoff run. So that was the top performers. And then, the surprise usage spikes, those, staples in the league, guys, that's going to help carry matchups. So, before I jump into this next segment, I always like to lead with this. I always like to start off with remembering that these athletes are people. You know what I mean? They do this. I mean, we benefit from the entertainment of it, but injuries are a part of the game, and we always hate to see this. So we pray for a safe, healthy recovery for these players, and they can get close to 100% as possible. Because we hate to see it, but like I said, unfortunately, it's part of the game. So first up was Pat Mahomes, torn ACL. Michael Parsons, torn ACL. Both of them out for the year. Mahomes had a great start to the year, kind of, been a little up and down here recently, but, you hate to see that Chiefs dynasty, it took a hit. It took a hit with that. Michael Parsons, I know the Packers were super excited about getting him this season in a trade. And it looked like he brought some life to them. We'll see what that means for their playoff run. It kind of looked like they probably a similar team to they were as in the 2024 season. So we'll see. But prayers up to Michael Parsons and Pat Mahomes. Devontae Adams, hamstring injury. I saw where he is a game time decision for Thursday against Seattle. However, I also seen some stuff that he could be week to week. So who knows? They coming off they going into a game Thursday on a short week. I don't know if they would be they need this game. So it sucks to be in that position because they're playing the Seahawks. They need this game to wrap up the division. But do you want to risk Devontae Adams any more than you have to when you can, you competing for a Super Bowl? Christian Watson, he hurt his chest. I saw something, it could be ribs. I didn't see anything official of ribs, but yeah, chest injury. Rome Odunze had a foot injury. Javonte Williams had a chest injury. He did return to that game against Minnesota. So we just monitor that situation to see how he practiced this upcoming week. RJ Harvey had ribs injury. Luther Burden had an ankle injury. Bam Knight had an ankle injury. I did see where they shut Bam Knight down. They added him to injury reserve today. So his season is officially over. So, hey, Michael Carter trending upward. Trey Benson out for the year. Bam Knight out for the year. James Conner out for the year. So if you're looking for a back at this point in the season and you still alive, Michael Carter is a potential play for you. Ricky Pearsall, he hurt his knee again. I did see where he may be week to week. Whitty Marks hurt his ankle. Devin Neal, hamstring injury. He may be a game time decision come Sunday. Devon Vele, I mentioned him last week. He was trending upward. I think his usage was going in the right direction. It was a shoulder injury for him. I did see where he was week to week, but it's possible that his season could be over given the type of injury he had and given the point of the season that it was in. So Devon Vele may be out for the year. I haven't saw anything official yet. But just we're going to keep monitoring that situation, and I'm going to make sure y'all had that information. Basil Tootin, finger injury, and Hunter Lupke, concussion. So like I say, we hate to see that. Injuries are a part of the game. Like I say, we hate to see it, and we pray that those players, make a full recovery and be ready as soon as possible and 100% ready. So, yeah, that's a wrap on that top performers injury recap segment. We're going to keep it pushing to the Hustlers pickup, the waiver wire scoop, for if you need some help going into the second round of the playoffs. We deep in the season, so we always looking for talent. We looking for plays that can help us get dubs. First up, I got Josh Downs, wide receiver from the Colts. He is 48% targeted. 48% rostered. Still 52% available in most ESPN leagues. So he could be available in your league. It's a good shot. He had 5 targets in week 15. He only had 3 catches, 13 yards, and a tutty, but that was 10 fantasy points. But over the last 4 weeks, that's 3 weeks of Danny Dimes, last week with Phillip Rivers, he's averaging over 5.5 targets over the last 4 weeks. So I think, Josh Downs is viable. They brought in Phillip Rivers to show up their quarterback position to keep their playoff chances alive. I think that means, They're gonna lean on JT. But when they start stacking up and Darren Phillip Rivers to beat them, Josh Downs might be right there to give you what you need to help you get a dub. So yeah, Josh Downs my first guy. My next guy, Kobe Parkinson, tight end from the Rams. He 11% rostered. He did play 86% of the snaps though, so he played a great bit. And the Rams use multiple tight ends. They use 3 tight ends predominantly, but he was the main one. He was the first guy. He had 5 catches, 75 yards, and 2 tutties on Sunday. Like I said earlier about Devontae Adams, he may miss Thursday. And if he does miss Thursday, that means Kobe Parkinson going to be there, available, putting in work. And like I said, he 11% rostered. So he available in 89% of leagues in ESPN leagues. So don't sleep on Kobe Parkinson. He a hit or miss kind of guy, but I'm telling you, recently he's been hitting. Matthew Stafford doing crazy work, and he liked to target Parkinson. So don't sleep on Kobe Parkinson. My next guy, Jalen Coker, wide receiver for the Panthers. He 3.5% roster, 68% of the snaps, 4 catches, 60 yards, 1 tutty. That would have had him 16 points, but he did fumble, so he lost the 2 that netted him 14 fantasy points. Still a good day though. Still a good day. This one thing I do know, being a resident of Charlotte, the Panther fans, they love Coker. They excited about Coker. Anytime he's available to play, they love what he could do and what he can do to help them. And I ain't gonna lie, I saw it, watching that game against the Saints, bro. He get open, he make contested catches, he got good speed, got good size. I see why they love him. So yeah, Jalen Coker might help you. Like I say, 3.5% rostered. That means he's available in 96.5% of the league. So don't be scared of him. Bryce Young getting better each week. His floor is really it's very low, but Bryce Young has shown he can play good. He can get you the points. He can get wide receivers the ball. So yeah, Jalen Coker, don't be scared of him. You can trust him. Blake Corum, I ain't gonna lie. I mentioned him in the surprise usage spike. I like this one. He been looking good. He been looking so good recently. Like the explosiveness, the burst, how he carried the ball, the physicality. He a pro running back. Blake Corum, 30% roster. Like I said earlier, had 11 carries Sunday, 71 rush yards, had a tutty. Like I said, McVay hasn't been hiding the fact that they want to preserve Kyren for a playoff push. And while they're doing that, we just found out that Blake Corum is carving out a real role. So yeah, Blake Corum is a great pickup this week if you need running back help. So yeah, that's the week 15 Hustlers pickup. Make sure you claim early. We deep in the playoffs now. It's no time for regret. It's no time for second guessing it, double-mindedness. We ain't worried about none of that. We seeing the information and we trusting it. And if it go against you, it just go against you. But as long as you got the information in front of you to make the best decision possible, that's all you can ask for. So yeah, that was the Hustler pickups, the waiver wire gems. Next up is our risk of the benches segment. These some tough start sit questions, some tough start sit matchups. You know what I'm saying? First up, Bo Nix versus the Jaguars. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm benching that one. With the quickness. Jags are second in turnovers forced. They got 26 on the year. They right behind Chicago. We see what they doing. Nix, he has a solid TD to interception ratio at 2.5. That's solid, but the Jags like the blitz. They defense showing up, and then they got a run game that they can control the clock. And I know Tuden got hurt, but I think ETN is good enough to carry them for a game to where he can control the clock. Trevor to show he got running ability. If a play breaks down, he can extend drives. So yeah, as long as the defense is getting rest and he's keeping Denver's defense on the field, Jags are in perfect position to force turnovers and lock up the Denver Broncos this weekend. So yeah, Bo Nix, I am definitely benching that. Benching that. Tony Pollard versus the Chiefs. Next up. I'm gonna risk that. I ain't gonna lie. I picked on Tony Pollard a couple weeks ago when they was playing Cleveland, and the boy showed out, had 28 fantasy points. Uh, he went crazy. But and on the flip side of that, Kansas City do have a stout running defense. They got the seventh best rush D, but I think that Mahomes injury is gonna shift their urgency. I think with them being eliminated and Mahomes getting injured for the year, it's people making plans, vacation plans, spending time with their family. The season, I'm not saying they quit. No, I want to be clear in that. I definitely don't think they're quitting, but I do think when you get a hit like that, like your star QB go down, it changes your mindset. So I think that's a lot off the field that's coming into the game that's working against Kansas City. And what's working for Pollard is the fact that he has 3 tutties, 265 yards on 39 carries in the last 2 games. And like I said, mentioned a few minutes ago, he had 28 fantasy points against Cleveland, backdoor with 18 fantasy points against San Fran. So right now he deep in his bag, and I like the risk. I like the start for Pollard against Kansas City. Next up, Aaron Jones versus the Giants. I'm risking that as well. Giants ranked 29th versus the run. Aaron Jones lead the backfield in snaps, 58% of the snaps. He only had 65 total yards last week, but if you got 65 and you score, you're looking at 12 and a half. If you got 70, you score, you're looking at 13. So you're looking at a solid day. Aaron Jones been the number 1 back in Minnesota all season. Nobody else has done anything to challenge that. I did see some CJ Ham usage in that Dallas game, but I looked up, he only had that 1 carry, and that netted the touchdown. So, I mean, he may still goal line work. I don't know. I don't think so. 1 carry in the whole game don't really scare me off of Aaron Jones. So, yeah, I'm a risk Aaron Jones against the Giants. I like that matchup. Next up, Terry McLaurin versus the Eagles. Hey, I'm definitely benching that. I am benching that. Philly has the 10th ranked pass defense. McLaurin only had 4 targets last week. He's too volatile. I think he's too up and down. He did have a good day. He did have 15 fantasy points, but on 4 targets, can he repeat that? And now they just announced that they shutting down Jaden Daniels for the year. So Mariota is his quarterback going forward. Now, Mariota have shown signs he can get whoever the ball. However, if he can only get 4 targets, to McLaurin, does that mean he repeat a 15-point fantasy day? I don't know. I ain't willing to risk it to find out, though. So, yeah, I'm benching that. Darren Waller, tight end for the Dolphins versus the Bengals. I am risking that. Now, I had Waller early in the year. I was able to stream him for a few weeks before he got hurt, and he helped me get some dubs. So I appreciate you, Darren Waller. The mission is covered. We appreciate your services. So, yeah, I'm risking that. The Bengals ranked 28th in pass D. Waller had 8 targets versus Pittsburgh. He's getting at least 3 targets a game in every game he's played in. So, yeah, Darren Waller, he like that. He's been tough his entire career. He playing against a leaky defense. They both don't have anything to play for. So I actually think that's probably going to be a good game to watch. I think it's going to be, they can be loose, just backyard football. And I think Miami and Cincinnati got a chance to play a backyard football game, and Darren Waller got a chance to benefit from that. So let's go under the radar next. We're going to keep it pushing to our under the shell lock pick. This is somebody who's, under the radar, like I said, somebody that nobody's really checking for. And at this point in the season, I ain't gonna lie, it do get kind of tough, preparing for this show. It was getting tough because people who manage, they probably ain't managing them or they got eliminated from playoff contention. So it's kind of hard. It's real thin out there. It's super thin out there. But I mentioned the guy who was starting over this guy earlier in Bam Knight. He's out for the year. With Bam Knight being out for the year, my under the shell pick is Michael Carter. He's 9% rostered. He faces an Atlanta D that's 25th in rush D. They gave up 87 rush yards to Tampa running backs last week. Carter had 18 touches, 94 total yards last week in week 15. Like I say, Bam Knight out for the season. Carter role is about to explode. It's about to expand. I think you can lock that in. You know what I mean? You can trust that going forward because he got a good opportunity moving forward because he's the starter now. So, that's my under the shell guy. Now let's go and get it moving to my lock. You know what I mean? This is who I'm picking. I'm locking that lock and I'm throwing away the key. And this guy, he been going crazy lately. And he had a slow start to the year and people panicked, because of the usage of Ramondre Stevenson. So, and I get it, right? Ramondre wasn't playing that great enough to keep Travion Henderson all the way tucked away. But he got hurt. It opened the door for Travion, and now the dog is out. You know what I mean? It's out. The secret's out. We know what it is. Ravens he got the Ravens this week. The Ravens are 25th in rush defense. Henderson averaging 15 carries, 98 yards over the last 5 games. He had 2 tutties last week. He got 6 tutties in the last 5 games, and he just been on a burner. Now, his yards per carry, not that great. I ain't gonna lie to you on that. It's not nothing that is super crazy, but the production is there. The production is there. The cat is out of the bag. The Ravens allow 18 fantasy points per game to running backs. So on top of him being on a burner over the last 6 weeks or last 5 weeks, he has an opportunistic matchup to where he can go crazy again. And if you got him in the playoffs, you're looking at a championship appearance possibly. So yeah, that's my that's my Hustlers Energy lock pick of the week. And if you rock with us, post your lock on X using the hashtag Hustle Sports Fantasy Podcast and tag Hustle Sports Net. Let's see who you believe in. Let's see who you trust. Show me who you trust. I want to see it. So before we get to the end of the show, we got to get to this fantasy league shout out. This is my fantasy league, my main league I play in. This is, these are guys who put their money where their mouth is. These are the ones who taking it serious. So round 1, winners in the Any Given Sunday Fantasy League. Shout out to the managers of University and ToeDragSwag. Y'all survived the first round and y'all advanced. Good luck to y'all. As y'all already know, playoffs bring clarity. So make sure y'all stay sharp, stay disciplined. You know what I'm saying? And just let your roster do the talking. So again, congratulations to the managers of University and ToeDragSwag for getting that playoff dub. It ain't easy. All right, here we are. We at the end now. Fantasy community debate. I ain't gonna lie. I like this. I was intrigued by these. We're gonna end it with a few closing community debate questions. First up, do real football metrics matter in fantasy playoff weeks? Or is it just about volume and opportunity? Hold on. I think real metrics matter. I look at real metrics when I'm deciding on who I'm going to grab and who I'm going to play. I use real metrics. Now, volume and opportunity does matter. It does. I don't want to discount that, but I think real metrics definitely matter. When you look at these defensive rankings, what they give up to certain positions, the schemes that they run, how often they blitz, how much they blitz, how little they blitz, how turnover prone are certain players, how turnover prone or how defenses can force turnovers. I do think all of that matter when you're talking about picking your players for fantasy. I think that makes the difference on if you in the playoffs or if you miss the playoffs, and it also make the difference in if you advance in the playoffs or if you get or you just showed up and you won and done. Being one and done in the playoffs hurt because you made it this far, you worked so hard, you grinded to this point, and then you lost immediately. And that happened to me in 2024. and I pray it don't happen to me in 2025. I'm going for the goal. That's just what it is, you know. So to even be in this position, you know, I'm definitely thankful. I'm definitely you know, optimistic about how it's gonna go down. But yes, real metrics matter when it comes to selecting players, waiver wire scoops, drafts, you know, type of offenses. Are they a good offense? Are they a bad offense? If they're a bad offense, you might want to stay away from those guys, or they might be your streaming guys because they can't hit on bad offenses. But if they're in a bad offense and you really need them, every year I've had a player on a bad offense and I really needed them, I missed the playoffs and it wasn't close. So, yes, real metrics matter. Volume and opportunity do matter, but real metrics matter just as much as well. So, that's my piece on it. I got another one, though. Should you sit elite players in bad matchups? How elite are we talking, though? You know, if we're talking top 5 in their position, are you going to sit that guy? No. I don't care how bad the matchup is. I'm not sitting them. You know, we going to win, lose, or draw. If this is my hit, my big dog, I'm riding it. I'm riding the wave until the wheels fall off. So, yeah, it depends on how elite we're talking. We're talking next tier, you know, you're talking from 7 to 20 in their position rank. Well, then I guess we no longer talking elite, though. So, yeah, top 5, should you sit elite players in bad matchups? I would say no, but I understand the people who play the numbers, who play the analytics. I get it. I get it. I personally wouldn't do it, but I understand it. So yeah, I'm gonna go no. I'm gonna say you shouldn't. But if you feel different about it, tap in. Let me know. Give me your logic on it. Cause listen, I want to learn from everybody too. Cause different what I've learned, especially with this season, your draft strategy don't matter as long as you don't lose your draft. Whatever, if you go zero back, I've seen zero back champions. I've seen hero back champions. I've seen, you know, hero quarterback champions. I've seen it all. So I don't think there's one way to win a fantasy league. It's just about preference. So with that preference, should you sit elite players in bad matchups? I'm going to go no. So, you know, that's a wrap on the show. That was the last segment. Hey, if you rocking with it, let me know. You know, tap in. Make sure y'all follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hustle Sports Network. And then follow us on X at Hustle Sports Net. You know what I mean? Tap in. Let me know what you think. Let me, you know, rate the show. Give me your picks, your waiver wide scoops, your Hustlers Energy Lock picks of the week, your under the shell guy, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Today we covered the week 15 recap. We did the week 16 prep. I gave you top performers, hustler pickups, injury updates, risk of the bench it calls, and them lock picks. So like I say, make sure y'all follow us everywhere, tap in, and y'all already know, if you sleep, you beat. And I'm your host, T. Will. Appreciate y'all hustlers. Y'all tap in.